So I worked in this one bakery for a short period of time. The place was totally infested with cockroaches. The cockroach population was so pervasive that they kind of owned the joint. Unlike typical cockroaches, this kind wasn't afraid of coming out in broad daylight. I would be in the middle of frosting a wedding cake and a big cockroach would just come marching across my station, all casual, like it was no big deal. I didn't touch them, and neither did any of my coworkers, but the executive pastry chef would kill them with his bare hands. I suspect that he didn't have any food safety training because there were so many things he didn't do that he should have done. He didn't wear a hairnet. He didn't label and date any of the food. He didn't enforce a first in, first out rotation of ingredients. And he didn't wash his hands after he crushed fat cockroaches. But I have to say that the cockroaches weren't the worst problem in that facility. The greater threat to the customers were E. coli and salmonella. But we're not going to get into that today. Today, all you need to know is that the cockroach problem was out of control, and the executive pastry chef was in the habit of blaming the pest control people who came in once a month to set glue traps for the cockroaches. Of course, they were just there to help. Here is an actual video that I shot with my phone of one of the glue traps the day after they had been set. It's hard to make out because this was before the days of HD camera phones, but as you can see, it's already full. So I had been brought in to cover for the guy who made the wedding and specialty cakes. He had just been arrested as wedding cake season was getting underway, at which point the average weekly order was anywhere between 15 and 25 wedding and custom cakes. My schedule was Tuesday through Saturday. So early in the week I started by slicing all of the cake layers, making all the fillings, and assembling all of the cakes. All of Thursday I frosted the cakes and covered them in fondant. Then all day Friday and Saturday I decorated the cakes, which was super challenging because I only had at most 1 hour to do all of the decorating on each cake. This was at a time when the Mad Hatter cake was very popular, so I was doing a lot of cakes like this, which are much more time consuming than the average. This is a clone of someone else's design, by the way, but I'm not sure of the source. Meanwhile, the cockroaches got into everything. The females liked to lay their eggs on or around the pot of simple syrup that was used to soak all of the cake layers. So periodically, a whole litter of nymphs would hatch and drown in the syrup. The big roaches snuck into the bags of flour and sugar, so they ended up getting baked right into the cakes. But they had a way of floating to the surface, so the cook would just pick them off after baking. Well, one Tuesday I was at my station slicing all of the cake layers, making piles for each size. I was in the habit of turning over each slice to make sure that I had cut it evenly on both sides. So I was slicing and flipping and slicing and flipping an 8-inch genoise when I flipped over a layer and there was something in it. Of course, it was a cockroach. Somehow, without meaning to, I had sliced into the cake just so to expose the underbelly of the cockroach without slicing into it. Well, I thought it was pretty interesting, so I turned to the woman next to me and said, "Mira," which in Spanish means look. So she looked, and her eyeballs got all wide. What happened after that was the kind of thing that nobody would believe if I hadn't had a witness. That dang cockroach jumped out of the cake, ran up my arm, down my torso, down my leg, and scurried away. I mean, even for that facility, it was not a regular occurrence for a cockroach to survive being drowned in batter and then baked alive at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was a wedding cake, so just imagine if I hadn't inadvertently set it free. It would have gotten served at the wedding. La cucaracha, ya no puede caminar, porque no puede, porque le falta marihuana para fumar. Alright, so this is your last chance to enter the silicone molds giveaway. If you want to enter, make sure to leave a comment below. I'm interested in hearing about your worst stories of stuff getting into the food. While you're working on that, I'll be working on another video series that's about costing and pricing. That will be going into my upcoming book, 125 Building Blocks for Your Bakery Business. All right, have a great week, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.